Welcome to the No Bullshit Guide to Java Spring Boot. Expectations: you already know Java, you have the JRE and JDK set up and can run Hello World, you don't know anything about backend engineering or Spring Boot, and you want to learn the basics as soon as possible but with enough detail to not look like an idiot. Our software will be IntelliJ, mysql.server, mysql Workbench, and Postman. We will also be using the Spring Initializer website. This is going to help us create a new project. We will be using Maven as our package manager. If you don't know what this is, it's kind of like NPM if you've worked on the front end. And we will be using Java Lombok. This is required before starting. If you're unfamiliar, just ChatGPT it. It should take you about 15 minutes to learn it. Basically, it's a Java library where you no longer have to write your getters and setters. And with that, let's start setting up our project. First, make your way over to the IntelliJ website. The link is in the description. Do not get the ultimate version. This costs money. Scroll down to the community edition, and then download and install your version. Next up, make your way over to the MySQL Workbench site. Choose your version, then click download. And then you'll have to click this link, no thanks, just start my download, and then install. Then do the same thing for MySQL Server. Choose your version, download, no thanks, and install. Next up, you need to get MySQL Server running. So on Mac, you're going to click the Apple icon, System Settings, scroll down to MySQL, and you should see an active instance. If it has a red dot, click Start MySQL Server. In my case, with the latest version, it didn't want to start up correctly, so I had to run this in the terminal. If you run into the same issue where you're getting a red dot and not a green dot, there's a link in the description to help debug. Once you have your active instance running, open up MySQL Workbench. I already have a couple of database connections here, but for you, you're going to want to click the plus button. We're going to name our connection NoBS v2, and then click this button to create your password. Once you've done that, you want to click Test Connection. With the latest version of MySQL Workbench, I am getting this warning, but when I click Continue anyway, it works just fine. Then click OK. Then click OK. Again, I get the same warning, but I'm going to continue anyway. And then it opens up MySQL Workbench. While we're here, go ahead and run this SQL query. Create database NoBS v2 semicolon. And then click this little lightning bolt icon, and you should see a green check mark down here. Next up, go to the Postman website, click your machine, click your hardware, and then download and install. Next up, make your way over to the Spring Initializer website. Make sure you select Maven and Java. And then you're going to click the latest number that is not a snapshot. For me, it's 3.3.1. Your number will probably be higher if you're watching this in the future. Let's rename it NoBS v2. We do want a jar file, and Java 17 is fine. Next, go over to our dependencies. Add Lombok, Spring Web, Spring Data JPA, and JDBC API. When you're done, click Generate and download. Unzip the file and then put the folder where you want it to live permanently. I put it in my Documents folder. Then all you have to do is drag and drop into IntelliJ, and it will create the project for you. We're still not done adding dependencies. We have to add one more. So go over to your pom.xml file, scroll down until you see dependencies, then make your way over to the Maven repository website, where it has the MySQL connector Java, and copy this dependency and paste it in. Once you've done that, click this little icon in the top right-hand corner to do a Maven refresh, and you should see the red numbers turn to white. Next, find your application.properties file, and paste this in. This is also in the description. Now, if you notice, it says localhost 3306. If you make your way back to MySQL Workbench, you can see that the default for MySQL is 3306, so that's where that comes from. and then change this to the database name that you gave it, no BS v2. Then change the username. I didn't change the username, so it is root, and enter in the password that you gave it. And lastly, you need this line of code for it to actually connect to your database. Okay, and after all that, we are finally ready to run our application. Find your main method class, no BS v2 application. I'm going to add a print line statement, and then I'm going to click run in the top right. You can see in the console, it does a bunch of stuff to initialize. We can see our hello world statement at the very top. One thing to notice, you will see Tomcat. We'll talk about Tomcat and what it does later. You can also see the successful connection to MySQL. You can see our Hibernate ORM. Again, we're going to talk about this later. And you can see the default Java Spring Boot port number, which is 8080, which we will also need when we actually make a request. Okay, now that we are finally set up, we are just about ready to start coding. So first up, let's talk about HTTP requests. When you're a user using Google Chrome and you click a button, the web browser then goes across the internet to a server. The server gets the requests, looks in the database, gets data, and then sends it back to the web browser. So this happens with an HTTP request, and then the server responds with an HTTP response. So the server is where we are writing code. When you write HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, that is executed on your computer in Google Chrome. But now we're writing code that lives on the server, and its job is to listen to requests coming from Google Chrome or any web browser, interact with the database, do some stuff, and then respond back. There are 4 types of HTTP methods that we will use in this course, and they line up with CRUD. CRUD stands for create, read, update, and delete. So you have post mappings, get mappings, put mappings, and delete mappings. Post is for create. So for an example, a new tweet, you would use a post mapping. Get is used for read. For example, if you're scrolling on your timeline, reading a bunch of other people's tweets, you would use a get mapping. If you want to update your tweet, you would use a put mapping. And if you want to delete your tweet, you would use a delete mapping. There are other HTTP methods, but we're only covering these 4. This constitutes like 99% of all HTTP methods that are used. Just FYI, there are way more topics to cover with requests and responses. For example, the URL, query string parameters, the header, the body, but we're going to cover these in future videos. For right now, with the HTTP response, we do need to deal with the body, which for right now is just going to be a string. And we do need to deal with the status. So we can return a status of 201, for example, is created successfully, or 404 is not found. So that's our first objective. We're going to create 4 endpoints, one for create, read, update, and delete. When pinged, we're going to return a string, and then eventually we're going to return the appropriate status code that goes with that message. Okay, so at the same level as your main method, go ahead and create a new package. We're going to call it product. In your product package, create a new Java class, and we are going to annotate it with @REST-controller. This communicates to Spring Boot that this is a REST controller. We're going to talk a lot more about exactly what this annotation does and how it works, but for now, just put it in there. We then want to define the 4 mappings. So we're going to use 4 annotations: @post mapping, @get mapping, @put mapping, and @delete mapping. Each one of them will be public, return a string, and then give it a reasonable name. Then for each one, we're also going to return a reasonable message. Once you've completed that, go ahead and restart your project. Now make your way over to Postman. If you're not familiar, Postman basically acts like Google Chrome. It's acting like the client that's going to ping our server. It just does it in a more developer-friendly way. Go up here to Workspaces and click Create Workspace. Click Next and name your workspace. Then create a new collection. I'm going to name it Product. And then in our collection, we're going to create 4 requests. This first one is a GET request, and this is where localhost comes into play. So create 4 requests, 1 for each mapping, give it a nice name, and then click Save. Once you've completed all of this, go ahead and click Send on each request. You're going to see the string that we returned. So product created, got product, product updated, product deleted, and if you notice, each one of these responses had a 200 status. That is the default. However, that is not what we want. We actually want to be able to control what this status code is. So now go back to Spring Boot, and instead of returning a string, we're going to return a response entity with a type of string. Then return response entity.status, then type HTTP status, and for the first one, we'll say .created. Then you say .body, and that's where you pass in your string. Do the same thing for all three methods. The get and the put mappings will be HTTP status.ok, and the delete mapping will be HTTP status.noContent. And as an editor's note, when you have no content, it actually doesn't send this string. So you can go ahead and delete the .body on your delete mapping. You can include it, it will still work, but it won't send the string. And now when we ping it, not only do we get the message, but we get the appropriate status code as well. Okay, so the next thing we need to do is separate our business logic from the controller, and we're going to do this with the @service annotation. Right now our project is so small and so simple that this doesn't seem necessary, but as it grows in complexity, you really want your business logic to live somewhere else. To do this, we're going to use the simplest version of dependency injection. I'll show you what that means. Once we get the most basic example up and running, we will have a discussion, and then we're going to update our code's dependency injection to a better version and add an interface for another layer of abstraction. Create a new Java class, and we'll name it createProductService. We're going to annotate it with the @service annotation. This tells Spring Boot that this is a service and allows for a dependency injection. I'm then going to copy the return that was originally on the controller, and in our service class, I'm going to create one method. Public, it will return a response entity with type of string, and I will call it execute. And it will return the line of code we had on our controller. In our controller, we now need to use dependency injection to inject the service class. So we're going to use the @autowired annotation, private createProductService, createProductService. Now we can reference it below, and we will return createProductService.execute. We're then going to do the exact same thing for the other three endpoints. Okay, we now have our simplest example up and running, and here's a quick couple of notes. First off, naming a service class. I've seen it called product service. I've seen it called product service impl, short for implementation. I've seen it called get product query handler. That's specifically for a GET request, reading data. I've seen it called a get product command handler, which is used for changing data like a post or a put. As for dependency injection, we will have a full discussion on this later, but for now just know that we used field injection, which is when you use the @autowired annotation. This is not recommended, but you do need to know it because some companies still have this hanging around in their legacy codebase. So we're going to go ahead and update from field injection to constructor injection, which is recommended. So let's do that now. So I'm going to right click and click Generate Constructor, and I'm going to pass in all 4 fields. Then I can delete the auto-wired annotation from each one. And I'm going to move these to the top, and usually these are declared final. Okay, one more thing we're going to do is add an abstraction with our service class. So this is something that we do in our production environment. So we're going to define an interface, public interface query, with an I and an O, which stands for input and output. It's going to have one method called execute that returns a response entity with O of output and I of input. And then it forces us to implement the method with an override annotation. So essentially what this does is it enforces a contract. It ensures that the name execute is consistent across the entire application. And there are other benefits, of course, but for now, let's just go ahead and implement it. So we're going to say new Java class, but technically this is an interface. We're going to call it query, angle brackets I, comma O, response entity O, and execute I input. We actually need to do one more because we're only going to use query for the GET request. So let's create another one, public interface command, IO, input and output, with the exact same format. Now let's go ahead into each service class and implement the interface. Our input for right now is just going to be void, and our output will just be string. It should underline in red, so go ahead and hover and then click Implement the methods. Then go ahead and copy our line of code, put it in here, and delete the old method. And do this for the rest of the 3, but make sure on the getProduct service, you use the query. Lastly, we do need to update our controller. None of these are taking in a parameter yet, so just go ahead and pass null into each one. And there we have it, the exact same functionality, but now it has a better layer of abstraction.